Hey, everybody. So, one of the most, I guess, requested or questions asked, etc., is how did Beast Mode Soccer start? Like, how did we get involved with all the pro players that I train? How did I grow the brand, etc. So it is our 10th anniversary in 2021. So I thought that I would just do a little live just to go through everything and kind of like reflect on what I've done and the future. So I'm actually streaming on Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook, but I'm looking directly ahead. So you guys definitely paying attention, but if you've got any questions, ask them and I'll glance over. So I actually started doing one-on-one training sessions when I arrived in America in 2003. I arrived in Tampa, Florida, and I started to do private one-on-one sessions because I was training teams there. But it was like the better that the teams got, the more frustrating it became because there was like politics and all that. So I started to see, like, when I was working with players in Florida, shout out to the Ferreras, I would see the results were a lot quicker with working with players in an individual basis as opposed to working with players in a team environment. And I really, really liked that structure of it all as well, of being able to really turbocharge that player's confidence and technical ability in quite a short amount of time. And I started to see really, really good results. Then in 2005, I moved to California from Florida. And it was a case of, I had no job. I had no money. I'd been coaching, and there's plenty of teams in California, but teams are quite skeptical here. I had my B license at the time, and I'll be quite honest, like, no one would give me a job. Like, clubs, I would reach out to clubs. I went to meet clubs, they wouldn't show up, and they just act like it's not a big deal. But I already had it in my head that I was gonna really focus on the one-on-ones. But I also knew that I had to pay rent. So I had to earn some sort of money. So I ended up, does that get better? I ended up getting a job at a high school called Harvard Westlake in, technically it's North Hollywood, but it's more like Studio City in LA. And I got that job working with a JV team. I'd already picked up a few like one-on-one players, we call them members, one-on-one members, and I started to work with them. And so I started to work with the JV team at Harvard Westlake, and one of the first few days there, the head of the program's car broke down, he couldn't come in, so he asked me to do the session. So I did, and at the end of it, I just said to the kids, like, okay, because it was a mix of JV and varsity, I was like, put all the equipment away. And one of the seniors like just screamed like, freshman, freshman, put all the equipment away. And obviously not being American, I was, hi Emily, I was not really into that like culture of just because you're a freshman, you've got to do everything. I don't like it. So I looked at the players, I said, listen, why don't you lead by example, put the stuff away? And she's like, it's tradition. I was like, it's not tradition, it's glorified bullying. That kid's better than you anyway, why should she put your gear away? Didn't go down very well. I'm pretty sure the kids' parents complained about me to the school. Anyway, fast forward, middle of the season, I keep, like, this kid hates me and her friends hate me. And every time I walk into the school, it's like an episode of Mean Girls, and they were just like straight mean mugging me. When did I move to California? 2005. So they're straight mean mugging me. And, I thought it was funny at the time, it was. But then as the season went on, I kept seeing this one player, the one that like I thought hated me, watch my sessions, and honestly, I remember looking at my assistant at the time, going, "She's messing with us, like she just straight grilling." And one day she came up to me and said, "Hey, like, can I talk to you?" And I'm like, "Sure," like, but it wasn't cordial. And she's like, "I've got a chance to play for the New Zealand under 20s team." At which point I was like, "Of course you have, because I can tell by your broad Kiwi accent." She didn't have one. She's from Pacific Palisades. So I stopped being an idiot for a second and let her speak. And she said, "I was wondering, I've been watching your sessions, whether you would work with me. I know you do one-on-one stuff." And I thought about it and I said, "Well, obviously we don't really get on, but the rule is if you do everything that I ask you to do, then yeah, like don't talk back to me. Like you can question things, obviously, but don't talk back to me." And she agreed. So she, for the next couple of months, she was outstanding. Like every day we worked hard. She had a lot of work to do. She was very, very quick, but everything else was pretty rough. And she ended up doing really well for the 20s. They qualified for that World Cup. And then she ended up going on to play for the full team. And that young woman then was called Ali Riley. And Ali is now, she's just completed her 4th Olympics. She's done 4 World Cups with New Zealand. She's won countless trophies abroad in Sweden with Malmo, now called Rosengard. She's played at Chelsea. She's played at Bayern Munich. She's now in Orlando. She won the WPS with Gold Pride, won WPS with Western New York Flash. So it was fantastic. But that was the first player that I saw go from one level and literally jump, because she played at Stanford as well. And Paul, the coach at Stanford, is phenomenal at also like molding players. So we saw that very quickly, and I think that was the tipping point when I knew that this is what I want to do. All I need is players who have got the drive as well. And I'll be honest, everybody talks the talk, everybody says that they want to improve, but when it comes to it, a lot back out. So there is a point to this, I promise. So Riley was our first big player, and as I said, she went to Stanford and played. And it's just so happened that her roommate was Kelly O'Hara. So, this is when Kelly was the same age as Ali. So she was trying to get onto the US team at the time. And they both went WPS. That was great. And then we started to do proper, I had access to a field. It's another story, but a singer called Robbie Williams had a soccer field in Beverly Hills, and I was able to house sit and use the field for work. It was fantastic. So me and Jill Oakes, Jill Farmer now, started co-ed nights. And what we'd do, we'd get a bunch of players together and we'd train before, and then we would go and play, right? So it'd just be high level pickup. And some of the players we started to get were very good, and they wanted to train first, and then they wanted to play. And because it was Robbie Williams's field, we would have a lot of Premier League players in the summer would come up and play, and it was a lot of fun. Looking back, wow, we were spoiled. And at that time, I was still just Dave, the guy who does technique stuff with players. And, we really started to push, and Riley was playing at Pally Blues with Kelly. And then they both went pro. They won the WPS, and then the league folded. WPS folded. So all of a sudden, we had a bunch of players in LA in the summer, and they had nothing to really play for because the league had folded. So we started to train a lot, and Now we're talking like really high level players, like your Abby Wambachs, your Liz Bogus, like really, really good players like Amy came up, like Huffy, like brilliant, Nikki Washington. And then one day I get a text from Kelly O'Hara saying, hey Dave, can I bring 2 players up tonight to train and then play? And it was like a really high level. So I had to say, like, you know, if they're garbage, they're going on your team. And she's like, oh, they'll be fine. But people always used to say that, right? People always used to say, oh, no, they'll be fine. They're brilliant. And then sometimes, you know, they would come up and you're like, oh, they're on your team. So these 2 players come on and they were fine because it was Tobin Heath and Alex Morgan. So obviously they were fine. And it was funny because that night I was like, all right, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to check Alex, see if like she's as strong as everyone makes out. So I went in and I did a bit of a shoulder barge, right? And I almost ended up through the fence. So I was like, okay, she's as strong as everybody says. And Alex came up to me afterwards and said, listen, like, I just wanted to see how this was. Like, we are looking for a trainer to work with us long term. Would you like to do that? And of course, like, yeah. So we started to train and we had a really, really powerful group. And I would train one day, then Mia Hamm would train them the next day. And I would just show up and watch Mia deliver because she is a legend and everyone just listens to her. She's brilliant knowledge-wise. And really the ball started rolling and we would see results with players. So another tipping point was that a player came up to me, and I won't say her name, but she came up to me after one of those sessions and said, Dave, like, would you write me a footwork program? And I was like, well, you've just won an Olympic gold medal. What do you need a footwork program for? And she basically said, I haven't done anything like this since I was at college. So obviously, yeah, like, so I wrote the program. And in the car on the way home, I was genuinely kind of like, if a player who's just won an Olympic gold doesn't know what to do on their own, how does like a 14, 15-year-old? So, and I'd always had it in my head to do a product, like a program, DVD, called 9 Balls, a Cone and a Wall. We've still not made it. Still not made 9 cones in a ball and a wall. But I came up with a better soccer blueprint. So an intern and I, Yasmin Slim, filmed that literally, it felt like 24 hours a day. We were there at 4 a.m. filming stuff for that. And it was all about basically working out a process for a player to get from where they are to where they want to get. And that was the Better Soccer Blueprint. That was 2013. And still available now, still fantastic program. So I skipped ahead a little bit because the name. So when Ali came back from, I think it was her first year in WPS, and she said, like, you know, Dave, I need to speak to you. We got to sit down, and I get quite scared because it sounds like your mum wants to talk to you about something. And she said, you know, you've got to grow up a little bit. And I'm like, what? No, I'm Peter Pan. I don't need to grow up. So she was right, to be honest. And I said, well, what should I do? And she's like, you know, get a name, start a website. She's like, you train all these phenomenal players, but nobody knows who you are. You're just Dave, the soccer guy. So I got a website together. I called it thesoccerguru.com. Built a website out. People liked the name. It was cool. And then one day we're training and Riley bangs this ball into the top corner, which is great because when she first played up there, like, she was the only female. And I remember the guys, it was a Tuesday night, and they were all like looking at me like, what are you doing? I'm like, just, she's fine. And within 2 minutes, she just put this ball into the top corner at an impossible angle, and every guy's like, okay, she's good. So Riley hits this ball and she's like, yeah, that's beast mode. This was 2011, and I'm like, oh, I wonder if beast mode soccer is available.com. So I went on to GoDaddy. I got it. And I'd already made this other website and everything. But once I get my head onto something, I'm like, I can't stop. So I went around to all my friends. I'm like, hey, like, what do you think of the name Beast Mode Soccer? They're like, we don't like it. Nobody liked it apart from the players. Riley liked it, Kelly liked it, and all that. That was fine. So I went against my friends, and then it was coaches that I know. Ah, Dave, you can't do that. Listen, that's the dream, right? You can't make a business out of individual training. It's just something that coaches do on the side. And my whole thing was, well, there's golf pros, there's tennis pros, there's American football pros, quarterback specialists. And I know there's technical specialists at pro clubs, so why not? It's what I'm good at, and I genuinely believe that we've all got a superpower, and I believe that my superpower is I know how to make players better at any level. And I think you've got a superpower. I don't know what it is, but that is my superpower. And I was going to use it. So when people kept saying, "Oh, you can't do it, you can't do it," it literally just kept driving me on because the players really bigged me up. Like Mia made me feel like $1 million. Like it was amazing. So that's how the name came around. I've got Riley to thank for that as well. And then I've got everybody who said you can't do that because bearing in mind, this is 2011. Like people weren't going on YouTube and just getting drills. This is before anything was available. So anyway, fast forward again, 2013, I make the Better Soccer Blueprint, and it was amazing, honestly, because I didn't have the money, right, to actually print a product, and I wanted a physical book, and I couldn't afford it. I didn't have the money for it, so I came up with the idea of doing a pre-sale to see if I could make enough money to get the books printed. So it was just a random idea, and Nikki Washington, who is a phenomenal human being, brilliant coach. Her mum worked for a printer, and she said, "I'll get you this deal, but you've got to get this amount of money." So I was like, "Okay." So I thought, right, I'll pre-sell them, and then I can ship them when they're printed. And I did 100 on a pre-sale just on a whim, and I woke up that morning and it had sold out. And that is when I was like, okay. People need quality. Fast forward to now, it's like information overload. Like people want a little sip and they're getting water from a fire hydrant in their face for information. So now it's about players have got so much information at their fingertips. Like who do you believe? Like who do you have as your mentor? Like what players have they trained? Like there was a case the other day that a guy who was like super viral got arrested for like awful things. Like who do you follow, right? Like who? Because it's so easy to get an Instagram account, get a bunch of followers, do some drills that are garbage, but they look cool, like the treadmill drills, and people buy into it because you look like you know what you're doing. And I always say to players, like, before you buy into something, look at the trainer. Who have they helped produce? Who have they improved? Are there players there just like you that have actually got to where you want to get, or is it just a bunch of cool Instagram drills? So, fast forward again, we did the challenge, which was kind of like 9 cones of ball on a wall, okay? Because it was 5,000 touches a day. I kind of wish I'd call it 9 cones of ball on a wall. And a little bit fast forward again, we did the soccer vortex and the swag mindset. So we'd had everything encompassed there, like mental training, physical training, and obviously technical training. And between when we started it, and I say we because I don't know why. If I say like Beast Mode Soccer is like I don't know, it's we. So between then and now, we've had players who have won 2 World Cups. We've had players who've won the Champions League. We've had players who've obviously won the NWSL. They've won College Cup. They've won the English League. They've won pretty much everything. They're Olympians. They're gold medalists. They're bronze medalists. Like it's honestly, it's insane. And I'm very humbled at how well players that I work with have done. I'm extremely detail orientated. And, I'm working with players now that you will hear about very soon. They're phenomenal. And that is basically how I came up with Beast Mode Soccer. Now, the process of working with players is another story. And that is, I've broken that down for people before. You analyze, you get film, and obviously I talk about it like it's easy, because for me it's just what I see. And as I said, like, I genuinely believe that's my superpower, is be able to watch footage of a player and just figure out what they need to work on, and then the creative side of me just comes up with the drills. And that is, it's huge. It's like when someone's really good at math or art, and you look at them and you're like, oh, I wish I was that good. And they look at you like, nah. That's kind of how I look at people when they say, oh, your drill's this. I'm like, just come up with it. And it works because our players, from youth to pro, are just the next level. And what does the future hold for Beast Mode Soccer? So my personal goal is to help 1 million soccer players potentialize. What I mean by potentialize is get to a level that was the top level that they're going to reach. It's not realistic for me to say, oh, I'll make you a pro, because people will top out at different levels. But as long as you've topped out at your top level, you got no complaints, right? And I want to help 1 million players on the field and off the players field, because I know that by creating confident youth players on the field, I'm also creating confident youth players off the field. Okay, so we're creating good human beings, and that's massive for me. If you had told me 10 years ago where this business would be, I wouldn't believe you. Honestly, I wouldn't believe you. I'm so pumped that we've reached that 10-year threshold. Tomorrow even. Today is Monday, tomorrow is Tuesday. We have a massive announcement tomorrow. So keep your eyes on our social media. It's a game changer, and it is our future. What I'm announcing tomorrow is what the future holds for us. I'm also going to announce a new website design with a new individual development plan program, which is free, because as I said, yes, we have our paid programs. Yes, we have a paid app, but it's also extremely important to me to be able to provide material and drills and programs for people who do not have that extra income. And I'm very proud of that. I'm very proud. I genuinely believe that if you don't have the money, then if you use our IDP, it will still take you to the next level, and it's free. Like, facts. beastmodesoccer.com/IDP. Download it now. It's free. And the new version, I think it's already online. In fact, I know it is. I did it last night. But the whole new website will be coming at tonight or tomorrow morning. Sorry, like, I'm on Pacific time, so whenever I do that, I know I've got sessions in the morning, then I'll come home, and I've got a Spanish lesson, then I'll make it all. But I'm very, very excited about the future. And basically what I want people to learn from the Beast Mode Soccer story is, you're always going to have people telling you that you can't do something. You're always going to have that. You're always going to have people who don't champion your successes, right? You're always going to have people who chat about you behind your back, people who you think were your friends. And the more success you get, the more you realize that, some of these people, they're not rooting for you, but they are to your face, which is frustrating. But I will say it's worth it. So if anybody out there is looking at you in the eye saying you're not going to make it as a player, I have got hundreds of stories about players who got told they wouldn't make it. They got told that they weren't at this level, and they just smashed through their potential, and they are there right now playing. And just off the top of my head, I can name like 20. So, you know, that's what I want people to get. Like, it is a hill that you constantly have to run up to achieve your dreams, and I'm nowhere near it yet. I genuinely think we've only tapped 5% of the players that we want to help, and you know, hopefully 2021 can be the year that we really blow the roof off it and help as many players as we can. I have a process in place that it's just proven to work. It's very exciting. And yeah, and then it's the whole other thing of dealing with success, because, you know, throughout our lives we get taught to deal with failure, but no one actually teaches you how to deal with success. And a lot of players do struggle with that. You know, it's a business owner struggles with that as well, because that is a mental thing, and players do struggle with that. But it is worth it, right? If you ask me whether all the years of sacrifice is worth it, and by sacrifice I mean just for tomorrow's announcement, for the past year I've been working a stupid amount. For the past 4 or 5 months I've been doing 18-hour days. You know, reach out and ask Jordan Lee Stroh like how much work has gone into what we're going to announce tomorrow, and it is literally thousands and thousands of hours. It's insane. I'm really proud of it though. So keep your eyes peeled on our social. If you guys have any questions about technical training, anything like that, go ahead and ask me, but I'm gonna have to put my glasses on because I can't read anymore. Okay, Sean Maple, I do love Sean Maple, yeah. No, beast mode soccer is not just for famous people at all. Like, you know, the players that we work with, yeah, they get success, but you know, we take Press wasn't on the national team when we started to work with her. You know, then she blew up, and I've got players that we're working with now, like Tyler, Simone, Shay. Like, these are players that you will hear about because they are going to be top players. All I ever want from a player is a good attitude. Honestly, that's it. I want a good attitude, and I want a player to be coachable and to be able to listen. I'm just going to go through some more questions. Growing up a bit, meant to stop dyeing your hair blonde. No, it's just because I'm losing it. Where do I hold one-on-one sessions? I personally, I'm in Los Angeles, but I travel a lot with players. But we've got places in Mexico City, Ciudad de Mexico. We've got Portland, we've got Vancouver, we've got Houston, Jacksonville. We've got places all over the place, which is great. Why did you move to California? The weather, isn't it? Best weather in the world. All right, I'm going to do 2 more questions. If anybody's, I'm coming to America. Come down, Sean. That'd be great. So yeah, there you go. Someone just said on TikTok, I don't like the senior thing. Good, nor do I. It's annoying. It's glorified bullying. All right, guys. So thank you for tuning in.